Welcome to season 3, episode 9 of the Subway Conversation Chat. My name is Jamie Malloy, and I'm here to talk some New York Yankees and Mets baseball with my co-host Joe Dalio. So, without any further hesitation, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going? It was good to see you.
It is going great, Jamie. Yes, good conversation backstage as always. We're going to have some good baseball conversation here. But things are great. Hard to believe we're a third of the way through this Major League Baseball season already. Can't believe that. But it's actually starting to feel like baseball season here in Buffalo. I'm sure where you are too. Because I think you're about an hour and a half from here. Finally, feeling a great weather. And I always say with people outside of this area, the weather stinks in Buffalo. We know that. But from Memorial Day to Halloween, I always say there's no better weather in this country than right here in Western New York. And it's starting to act like that. As soon as it turned Memorial Day here, all of a sudden we're going to have 2 weeks straight of sunny and mid 70s and great weather here. So I'm pumped. And, there's some great winter sports still going on that I'm keeping track of, but nice that we could follow this warm weather sport here and a little more. And your team's playing pretty well there too.
Mm-hmm.
So at least one of us can say that.
Yep. Speaking of your team, would you like to start us off with some Mets news? And you already said they were down 2-0, but do you have any other news that doesn't relate to them losing right now?
Well, it's kind of hard to find news that doesn't relate to them losing because, again, this team's a joke. But in some respects, they're trying to make the right moves. They're going out with the old and in with the new, and that's having some positive effects and it's having some negative effects. Now, some news here, Craig Kimbrell, the potential Hall of Fame reliever here that the Mets gave a shot, they've officially designated him for assignment. He was optioned to Syracuse. This was like around the 22nd or so, but he was actually picked up today, I believe. I thought I saw maybe Tampa. Somebody did pick him up and give him a shot, or maybe it was just who should pick him up. I don't know if anybody actually did. I might have mistaken the article, but I know that he was designated for assignment by the Mets. And, the good thing is out of that is it makes room for some younger guys here. And Jonah Tong, who had gotten some experience before, got recalled again here and immediately got put into the bullpen and pitched an inning this week and did well. There's questions of, again, should the Mets put him right in the starting rotation? And again, with Clay Holmes out, might not be a bad idea. And again, some of the Mets starters now starting to come around a little bit, a la David Peterson, but maybe not a bad idea to put Jonah Tong in the starting rotation. We'll see what happens. The Mets do have some depth in the bullpen and guys that are pitching well. Also got rid of Austin Slater, again, old veteran that had been around for a little bit, gave a shot, didn't pan out. And so they designated him for assignment as well on the 19th. Now, let's talk about some injuries and some good news and bad news. The bad news is that the only guy in this lineup that can hit missed a couple of games because of illness. We're talking about, of course, Juan Soto, who missed a couple of games in a row because of illness. They said he was feeling hot and, he not exactly sure what it is, but just you can't take chances with this. And, unfortunately, we just saw something happen to an athlete, to Kyle Busch, who passed away from I'd say a simple sickness. I mean, there's no simple sickness if it kills somebody, but, you got to be careful with this. I think had Kyle Busch, taken some time off and held back and taken care of what he needed to, he'd still be with us today. But, that's why I think you might see more athletes now that keep an eye on that, maybe do that. So not a problem keeping Juan Soto out of the lineup because of the feverish conditions that he had, viral conditions that he had. So The only bad thing about that, again, is he's the only guy really hitting in the lineup. Now, some good news here is Francisco Alvarez, who had surgery for a torn meniscus, they're saying is ahead of schedule. He's already, doing drills and contact drills. I say contact drills like it's football or something, but some hitting drills and things like that. So he's ahead of schedule, which is good because Alvarez was really hitting the ball well before he got hurt. And it'll be nice to have him back sooner than later. Other guys they're not sure about now. A newer injury, Tyrone Taylor. Not that he was hitting at all, but again, some extra depth and a good fielder in the lineup. He had some hip soreness and was taken out of the lineup and getting an MRI done today. Carlos Mendoza thinking he's going to spend some time on the IL. Kodai Senga still recovering from his spinal issues. Not sure when he'll be back. Francisco Lindor and Jorge Polanco dealing with their issues. Not sure when they're going to be back. Probably Francisco Lindor before Jorge Polanco. But those are some of the injury news, pieces of injury news there. So, again, the Mets giving some room for some of these younger guys. And in some ways, again, it's good. We talked about it last week and how I was in favor of it and how it's injecting some heart into the lineup. But there's some negative repercussions that when I come back and talk about some of the statistical things here, I'll share of how it may be a little bit of a detriment as well in a couple of different types of ways. So that's basically it as far as Mets news going on here. Jamie, what's going on in Yankees land there?
We're going to start out with, thank you, Joe. First of all, we're going to start out with the injury report. Designated hitter Giancarlo Stanton has a right calf strain. He has continued hitting and is doing plyometric exercises. And Stanton will have imaging this week to see if he will get the okay to start running. Not that he really has much running left in his career, but we still wish him luck. Next, we have left fielder Jason Dominguez, Beluga Heights. Anyway, he has a left shoulder AC joint sprain. He hurt his shoulder on May 7th while colliding into a wall while making a catch. Dominguez was given a PRP shot on May 11th, is now working on hitting off a tee. He could advance to playing in minor league games first week of June. Third, we have left-handed starting pitcher and ace Max Fried with a left elbow bone bruise. He is stopped from throwing for a few weeks after a short 3-inning trip on May 13th against the Baltimore Orioles. Fried will have an additional round of imaging performed before he is cleared to start a throwing program. Next, do the Yanks have the tallest outfield of all time with Judge, Jones, and Bellinger? To some extent, if you're taller, you're a better baseball player, but for position players, a bigger body frame makes it more challenging to control your swing movements. Longer swings usually lead to striking out more. Additionally, it's tougher to change your swing unless it's really especially when it's out of rhythm. Mm-hmm. This list of baseball's tallest players of all time shows real negatives to being very tall, but also the positives. We'll go through them. So in a 4-3 loss to the Brewers on May 9th, the Knicks delivered a big three NBA type of outfield that I think the New York Knicks would like to have for the NBA Finals. So anyway, you have the two 6'7" monsters.
I see what you did there.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Of Judge and Jones in right and center field, followed by the 6'3" Cody Bellinger. So those are your two small forwards and a combo guard there in Bellinger. The next tallest lineup was actually, if you could believe this, because he hasn't. He's now doing something else. But how about 6'4" Joey Gallo? Joey Gallo, that's a name from the past.
Right?
In left, he did actually. It's funny though. He started out good with the Yankees when they traded for him, and then he just wasn't the same after that. That was actually the funny thing. With Judge 6'7" at center and 6'5" Giancarlo Stanton back when he could actually run. With a combined height of 19 feet 4 inches. While Judge and Stanton are still on the Yanks, Joey Gallo is trying to transition to pitching. It's funny, they've tried to make him a pitcher because his hitting was so bad.
Are they seriously trying to do that?
They were doing that. They were doing that last year. They were trying to convert him to a pitcher. Yeah,
that would be amazing if it happened.
Yeah. Anyway, the third tallest, this one was without Judge, was 6'4" Paul O'Neill, left field, 6'2" Bernie Williams. Bernie goes boom, burn baby burn. R.I.P. John Sterling, center field, and 6'6" Darryl Strawberry out in right field. Combined height 19 feet. So, Joe, like I said, even though being tall in baseball isn't everything, you could argue that the Judge, Jones, Bellinger outfield joins pretty good company with the 2021 lineup of Gallo, Judge, and Stanton, then O'Neill, Williams, and Strawberry. Because even though, like I said, Gallo, Judge, and Stanton, they may have not overpowered anybody, at least they did make the playoffs that year. And we all know with O'Neill, Williams, and Strawberry was the 90s dynasty. So,
right.
Yeah. So, Joe, how shocking is it that the Yankees are literally standing tall with this piece of history?
Yeah, that's no tall order to duplicate that, but it does give him a little bit of an advantage. And baseball has steadily gotten into a taller sport, especially with pitchers, right? How many times do you see these tall pitchers and guys like Judge coming around here? So I think it's a little bit of an advantage, especially if any of these guys can field, which they can. We know that. They're not elite fielders, but they're certainly not weak. Again, stretching for a ball or leaping to try to rob a home run or something like that, or to make a stretch or a dive for a ball. I mean, that can come in handy in the field. And these guys are decent athletes, even though, again, they are taller. And I think it is a little bit of an advantage.
Mm-hmm. And how rare is it to have 2 6'7" players in the outfield? How rare is it to have two guys at 6'7"?
It's extremely rare. And I think we're going to see more of it because, again, baseball is getting a little bit taller as far as taller players coming in. So it may not be a normal situation, but I think it'll be a little more normal than it's been. It's a rarity at this point, and especially in the past. But as time goes on, I think you'll see a little bit more of that as in the future.
Mm-hmm. So now it's just an interesting food for thought to think about. So,
right.
Anyway, the Yankees see the dollar signs for appropriate third base trade target. All I see is signs. All I see is dollar signs. Or the rapper Ty Dolla Sign. Anyway, it is no secret that current Yankees third baseman Ryan McMahon is struggling in his first full season in pinstripes. That's why time is money. So Yankees general manager Brian Cashman better acquire Philadelphia Phillies third baseman Alex Baum. Baum wasn't that explosive, if you could get that. Baum wasn't that explosive.
I got it.
Earlier in the year, batting only 151 with one home run and a 426 OPS in March and April. But it's been a different story in May, which sees Baum hitting 339 with 4 home runs and a 985 OPS. What changed? The Phillies canned manager Rob Thomson and promoted former New York Yankees captain Don Mattingly as the interim manager. Both the entire Phillies organization and Baum have welcomed the change into the dugout, and I think rightfully so. For the time being, they should.
I would think so. And by the way, that Baum joke was fire.
Yeah. Anyway, the Phillies have a 16-6 record under Manley, and Baum is tied for a major league long 11-game hitting streak. The turnaround has come at a pivotal time as Baum will be a free agent after 2026. The club could still move on from him despite him being the team's regular third baseman since 2020. And we have a quote here. Top prospects Aiden Miller is waiting in the wings, especially he hasn't played in the minors because of a back injury, ESPN David Schoenfield wrote last month. There's a scenario in which Miller gets healthy, hits his way to the majors, and the Phillies trade Baum to clear room for Miller. If Baum's been so good for the Phillies lately, why would they want to actually trade him and get rid of him to the Yankees of all teams, right? Think about it.
Right.
So the Yankees better hope the Phillies cool off, forcing president of baseball operations Dave Dombrowski's hand before the trade deadline. We have another quote. If they sell, Alex Baum feels like a change of scenery candidate, fan side, as Robert Murray noted last week. Baum is on the books this year for a $10.2 million contract, according to Spotrac. So from a financial perspective, he wouldn't cripple the Yankees. But with every hit he gets and with every whiff current Yankees third baseman Ryan McMahon produces, Baum's price tag rises. And we have a quote. The Yankees farm system is stocked with MLB-ready talent in the upper levels, which could help them fill gaps or trade for reinforcements, the Athletic's Jim Bowden wrote Tuesday. They're still not getting enough offense from third base and could improve the bullpen as well going forward. Of course, with Jose Caballero coming back from the injured list, it's possible the Yankees try to ride it out with the trio of Caballero, McMahon, and Anthony Volpe rotating through the left side of the infield. Even if the Yankees don't want to, they gotta ride it out, right? With Volpe. Therefore, Cashman will need to decide how much is too much to move on from McMahon. Joe, how long should Cashman have to wait before the price is right for Alex Baum?
Hey, I'd love him on my team. He's one of my favorite players in baseball for two reasons. He's very real, all right, as far as a person. Now, I love how, and I don't know if you saw this a few years ago, he was playing in Philadelphia. He made like 2 or 3 big errors in the field. And you know how patient Philadelphia fans are, right? I mean, they're booing him off the field. And he gets caught on camera out in the field. He's talking to one of his other players, and he gets caught on camera saying, "I hate this effing place." And so, of course, the Philadelphia media and fans blew up at that, and he owned it. You know, he said, "Look, I said it. I'm sorry. I was frustrated. You know, I didn't really mean it because I do love playing here. But he says, I can't deny I said it, and you know, he owned up to it. I appreciate that." Also, got a nice little sense of humor, too. A couple of years ago, he's in the home run derby, and he was like the last guy in the home run derby. And everybody's like, okay, Alex Baum, he's going to be last place. He'll be one and done. Well, he goes to the final round, and he's sitting there, and he's on mic, and you can hear him. And they're like, hey, you're in the finals. And he's just kind of sitting there and say, yep, here I am, just like everybody expected. Just like a wise guy comment. And I died. I'll never forget that. I played it for my daughter. She laughed at it. Mm-hmm. Great. So I've always had a spot in my heart for this guy. I honestly don't think he'll be with the Phillies next year, the economics of it. And again, it's great to see him after a rough start get going and play Alex Baum-like. But I could definitely see him with the Yankees. I mean, he knows how to play in front of tough fans, again, playing in Philadelphia. He knows how to play in big situations, as the Phillies have been in some big games. I believe he was with that World Series team a few years ago. So he knows how to play in these situations. I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Yankees, to be honest with you. I only see him as a Philly, especially after seeing him in a couple of those situations I talked about. But I think, again, it would make sense for the Yankees, especially with those situations that you mentioned. The economics are right. I think he would fit in. Again, he knows how to play in a big city and a place with a lot of attention and in big games. So I think he'd be a great teammate. He'd be a great player. I think he'd be an excellent fit for the Yankees.
Mm-hmm. And Joe, I was just thinking here, if the Yankees were to acquire Bohm or Bomb, however you say it, how funny would it be that if he hit a home run every time that they played "You Dropped the Bomb on Me" by the Gap Band? Would that be funny?
That would
Are you
be
surprised
great.
I even know? Are you probably, my audience is probably like, what's he talking about? No, but the Gap Band was from the 80s, and I actually have their album CD, the greatest hits by the Gap Band. You probably have heard of the Gap Band, right?
Oh, no shame in that. I love that song from the early 80s. And it's the type of song you hear it, and then you're singing it the rest of the day, right?
Yeah.
So, no, great
yeah.
song.
Yep. So anyway, let's turn it back over to you, Joe, for a second time, the second time around, for some more Mets highlights, Joe.
Well, you're full of amazing, great 80s songs, bringing some Shalimar into the show here. So, hey, I Mets fans, I wish I had better news. I wish I had better information here. But we've gone back. I was full of optimism last week as we were talking about this young youth infusion into the mix, adding some heart. And I said, man, it's like I would definitely watch this team win or lose. And they won 6 out of 7 last week. But how about losing 6 out of 7 this week, right? It's the negative 6-7 part of it. Mm-hmm. So, again, I was talking about having some negative repercussions as far as this youth movement. Now, unfortunately, and I even said it last week, the guys, the slump's coming for these guys, and we'll see how they react to it. Now, one of them, Nick Morabito, who had started with the Mets last week and was a call-up that I had mentioned was low on the prospects list for the Mets. There was other guys ahead of him, but they brought him up anyway. He was playing very well in the minors. Well, he's had 8 at-bats this week, 0 hits, 7 strikeouts in those 8 at-bats. So the danger that you are doing here in this youth movement that we praised last week, you are taking a risk and perhaps bringing up guys before they're ready to play. And I think that's what happened here because, again, you're rushing people and bringing them up maybe sooner than later or sooner than you should, and you get situations like that. So it'll just be, I'll be curious to see how long he stays up or how much time they give him. You don't want to send a guy down 0-for in his major league debut. But at the same time, if he's not ready, he's not ready. So just to give some facts here, the Mets went 1-6 this week after 6-1 the week before, being swept in Miami by the Marlins, lost at Washington, home against the Reds last night. They were losing 2-0 last I checked, and outscored this week 35-16. So when you look at it, that's about 5-2. Now, their pitching had been good. It was a little subpar this week. But again, you're scoring 2 runs a game here. You're not going to win games scoring 2+ runs a game. And just, I got some stats here too that kind of show that. Now, as I mentioned, one guy in the lineup hitting, and Juan Soto, he's the only guy worth talking about as far as offense here. Now, he is going above and beyond. 3 home runs and 4 RBIs this week, a 1,400 OPS. And that includes a 1,000 slugging percentage, which is absolutely amazing. 400 on base, that's good too. But he's just smacking the ball as he has been ever since he came off the injured list. Now, Soto and Bichette are the only guys that had more than 1 RBI all week. Bichette had 2. Again, I talked about Nick Morabito, and you wonder again how that's going to affect some people, and are they going to rush people or what? Now, some positives as far. Oh, let me go to some of these negative StatCasts here. The Mets are now the worst team in baseball when it comes to some of these StatCasts measurements here. Barrel percentage, sweet spot percentage over the last week, but now they have become the worst team in baseball with those things. They're making weak contact on the ground, leading now to 23 games this season where they've scored 2 runs or less. So, yeah, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is from a lineup with the second highest payroll in baseball. So what can you do? Now, some positives here as far as the pitching. I talked about Jonah Tong, and he only pitched an inning, but they're talking about his approach angle and his spin rate. Talk about StatCast here. So he's up with the team now, and there's a reason for that. They said it's an incredibly high spin rate on his four-seam fastball, which creates that rising illusion, and a high percentage rate or high whiff percentage from the batters that he's faced. Take that, though, on the opposite. One of the bright spots in the Mets starting rotation was Rookie of the Year candidate Nolan McLean. However, 2 starts in a row, he's had negative starts, and he got destroyed last night by the Reds. StatCast data has tracked a massive spike in his average exit velocity allowed. The Reds, they were routinely hitting 100 plus off their bat as far as exit velocity. And they're blaming his slider on that for the most part. They say it's due to a poor horizontal break on his sweeping slider there, which causes hanging pitches, which major league hitters are going to be all over. But really, I got nothing as far as the Mets pitching. Again, some bright spots, as I mentioned before, with David Peterson pitching a little bit better. But other than that, again, Freddie Peralta fighting through a difficult start, going some distance here, and I believe his longest start of the year so far against Miami in a losing effort, but gave his team at least a chance to win. But if you don't hold these opponents to like 2 runs or less, it's almost like they don't have a chance to win. So it's sad. So the Mets are now 22-32, 14 games out of first place. Now that's more than any other team in baseball. I mean, part of that is because of how bad they're playing, but part of that is because they have the Atlanta Braves in first place in the division. You look at other divisions around baseball, and they're a lot more compact, and even some of the last place teams are only a handful of games out. So that combination has just caused the Mets to be 14 games back. Now, again, if we were having this conversation 3 weeks ago, I said, hey, and I did say it, if they make the necessary changes, maybe get some kind of spark in there, they still have a lot of time. But now, as I said in the beginning of the show, we're a third of the way through the season. Time is pretty much running out here. Is 14 games back on Memorial Day an impossible task? No. But they're too stupid to make the changes that they need to make. So we're going to just keep seeing the same old stuff until a change is made, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's in August, whether it's in 2028. All right. But until that change is made, they're not going to see any change, on the field. And it's sad because they still have enough time to get back at least into the playoff race, even if we're not talking about a division now. There's still time. There's still 2/3 of the season to go. But again, they're too stupid to make any changes. So the way the schedule looks, winnable games, 2 more against the Reds at home. Once tonight, they were losing by a couple of runs. And then tomorrow, 3 games over the weekend against the Marlins. Again, they should be winning 2 out of those 3. We'll see. Then things get a little more difficult as they start a West Coast road trip in Seattle at the beginning of next week, and then San Diego after that. So these are the games that they got to win. Not that the Reds are any slouch. Reds are right in the thick of their race. The Marlins are playing better than people expected. They're, not too far out here, and certainly playoffs is not unreasonable for them. It's just, again, with this team and with this payroll, we should not be in this position. And again, It's almost like the Mets don't know what direction to go. We got these veterans in here. Oh, but now we're going to go with the youth movement. But now that's not working too well. So what do you do next? Remains to be seen. So I really got nothing more to say. I mean, I'm out of answers. I said it was a good idea to go with the younger guys, and I still would rather see that than go with a bunch of overpaid, overrated veterans. But something's got to give. And again, they're not smart enough to do what they really need to do. We're going to keep seeing the same old. And I don't know how this situation changes, minus a couple of guys hitting the ball well. So stay tuned. We'll see. I wish I was more optimistic. I usually am. But I don't think there's much to be optimistic about. So there is optimism in another borough. And so let's hear about some of that with the Yankees. Jamie, I'm going to send it back to you.
Okay, so anyway, should Yankees manager Aaron Boone deserve more love after defending his players from recent ejection? Guess what, folks? It's back to the pre-ABS days. Aaron Boone got ejected.
Yeah.
We got to celebrate that when we can. The Yankees defeated the Toronto Blue Jays for 2 wins in a row last Tuesday, but their loss and a win came full circle. Umpire Brennan Miller ejected Aaron Boone in the 7th inning. Back in 2019, before the pitch clock and ABS, it was Miller who tossed Boone during the epic Savages in the Box rant. I got to see that. I want to know what that was about. 7 years later, Miller tossed Boone again. This time it was because Miller called the out on a Dalton Verjo diving catch that easily touched the grass and before he could secure it. With Boone being out of challenges, he sarcastically snipped at Miller. Nice job. Not thrilled with Boone's attitude there. Miller threw the manager out for Boone's 48th ejection in his career.
By being a wise guy.
Yep. Boone has gotten heat or hate from crucial media and the WFAN callers alike since the Yankees hired. Joe, you always say we know how patient Philadelphia fans. We also know how patient both New York Mets, Yankees, any New York teams are, right? Same thing. And that was me being a wise guy there. Excuse me. Warranted or not, sure. Some of that was due to Joe Girardi's sudden departure after 2017 that the Yanks wouldn't renew his contract. I remember that. Mm-hmm. I was in community college at the time. It also hasn't helped that since Girardi left, the Yankees haven't reached their ultimate goal, their 28th World Championship. However, they did make an appearance 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So we do remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Still, Boone deserves credit for the way he rallies for his players. The comments he makes defending like the IKFs and the Anthony Volpes and the Joey Gallos of the world, it may be annoying for New Yorkers, but in an era where calling players out like you're Billy Martin, hiring and rehiring and firing people and, being a hard you-know-what, like Casey Stengel in the media now, throwing your players under the bus in the media like that will cost you your job. And that's one thing Carlos Mendoza, I think, has been good at too, even though it's been a struggle with the Mets. He's still going to bat for players publicly and privately, even when they're struggling. Mm-hmm. So, for these players, though, it's nice to have a manager like Boone that will go to bat for you both in public and private. Just recently, the Knicks went through the same thing when they fired Tom Thibodeau and declared early that Mike Brown was a failure. But now with Brown, the Knicks swept the Cavs and are Eastern Conference champions and are now in the NBA Finals. New Yorker fans are tough critics, though. We know that.
Right.
Because think about it. As good as Tom Thibodeau was, he was kind of a micromanager, and that doesn't work nowadays. And Mike Brown was known more. He was known as more of the positive, energetic, calm demeanor that he'll go to bat for his players no matter what, and more of a players development coach. And you could see you could see that in their play this year from last year.
Yeah, and look where they got him to that next step.
Yeah. The reality is Aaron Boone would instantly get another job if he were fired right now, because of how close he is with his players and his calm demeanor towards struggling hitters and triumphant winners. The reality is Billy Martin and Casey Stengel's hard-nosed micromanaging style would cost you your job today, and that's true.
Yeah.
So, Joe, what do you think of an article actually giving Boone credit for the way he does manage his players, and that he does stay calm during post games and he doesn't throw any player under the bus, and he really defends his players in the media and off the field?
Well, that's the kind of manager you want, right? Somebody who's going to go to bat for you, somebody who's going to defend you and stand up for you. Also one who's going to hold you accountable. And he does. I think he's the perfect manager for that team. I've said it before. I strongly believe that. And the way he handles himself with the whole New York media, the way he handles himself, and again, dealing with these players, again, finding that fine line of defending them and standing up for them, but yet holding them accountable at the same time. I think he does a great job with that. Yes, he doesn't do everything perfectly, and I think everyone knows that. But I can't think of a better guy right now, anyway, to manage this team.
Mm-hmm. And how can this style of managing still help the Yankees finally win their 28th World Series title?
Well, that's a very good question. I don't know that there's anything more he can do, to be honest with you. I mean, again, look at how well they're playing. They're playing like a World Series team. They're good enough to do it. They're doing the right things. I think it's just a matter of wait and see. Let's get there and make it happen when the time comes. So It's a very good question, because I don't really know what more he can do at this point, except just keep doing what he's doing.
And like I said, their pitching is finally good enough to do it too, because even the team they had with Soto a couple years ago,
right.
Soto was great, but I don't think their pitching was as good as it is now, or even last year towards the back end of the second half of the season when Marcus Stroman left. Their pitching was great, and it's carried over to this year.
Right, and it's only going to get better as the injured guys come back.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, now let's take a look at Down on the Farm. Yankees prospects. AAA Scranton and Wilkes-Barre. How about none other than George Lombard Jr. Let's see. Shortstop. He went 1 for 3 with a walk, 3 RBIs, and a strikeout, but also had a sac fly, hit a 2-run single to put Scranton on the board early, tied the game in the 5th with a sac fly, and scored the go-ahead run in the 9th after a walk. Next, we have second baseman Oswaldo Cabrera. He was 1 for 5 with a strikeout and had a stolen base and a fielder's choice. He can still take all the time he needs before rejoining the Yankees. Next, we're going to go to AA Somerset Patriots. And guess what? The Hess Trust back, and it's better than ever. I'm talking about Ben Hess is finally back. The 23-year-old was reinstated from the 7-day injured list and went 1 1/3 innings with 1 run on 3 hits and struck out 1. He is returned after missing about a month with an unspecific injury. But you got to have no fear. The Hess Truck's here. Next, we have center fielder Garrett Martin. He went 1 for 5 with a home run and 3 RBIs, striking out once, but hitting an Eastern League lead and now a career high 15 home runs in 41 games after he had 14 and 102 last year. So he already has a new career high in 42 games in Double-A. Next, we're going to talk about shortstop Caden Kent, Jeff Kent's son. Kent was 1 for 3 with 2 strikeouts and had a stolen base, though. So, Joe, what do you think of Garrett Martin now having 15 home runs in 42 games, already having a career high from 14 and 102 last year?
Yeah, definitely. You got to take those steps. Now, you said he's in Double-A right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, you start hitting those career highs. Guess what? Takes you to higher levels. So we'll see what it does for him. But those are the steps you got to take. You always want to be having those career highs now, because that's one of the things that leads you higher up. So good to see. I don't know a lot about him, but that's good to know. And again, it's only going to take him further in his journey to get to the major leagues.
How about the fact that George Lombard Jr., despite kind of struggling and only batting 197 in his first stint in AAA, but what about the fact that he's even in AAA at 20 years old, and possibly by the time he makes his MLB debut, he would just turn 21?
Wow. When does he turn 21? Do you know?
Next Tuesday, June 2nd.
Okay. Yeah, great to see. Now, I've heard his name a few times from you and from others. So nice to see, excuse me, nice to see him progress in his journey. And he may be talking major leagues at 21 if he continues to excel. So I'll be curious to see how he does with that.
Right. I know he's only batting 197, but I feel like it's the same thing we talked about with Austin Wells. Like, he'll get it going. And like I said, I bet you Lombard's expected batting average is a lot higher than 197, but he's probably like Wells, where, like I said, he's not striking out. He's at least, doing other things to win. Like, he's obviously hitting the ball to score. He's hitting sac flies in clutch situations, and he's scoring the go-ahead runs. So he's doing other things that don't show up on the stat sheet to help the team too.
Right. I'd be curious to some of those hard hit rates and expected averages and stuff like that, because that does tell an excellent story about how he's progressing and if he's due for a breakout. Again, I'm learning more about those stats each week here. So I'd be curious and have to check them out and see. And that's often an excellent indicator of how soon a guy's going to progress.
And then what do you think of Ben Hess being slowly worked back in after missing about a month with arm soreness and basically having command troubles, not velocity, but having trouble like commanding his fastball?
Yeah, that's going to take some time coming back. Again, you got to get back in shape, because I'm sure after missing some time, Hess is really gassed after pitching some innings. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. But it's going to take some time, just like it takes a batter some time to get the timing back. It's going to take a pitcher time to get, some of the control back and the command back. And I'm sure if he's good enough, that's going to happen sooner than later. Because
he's still in Double-A, and I'm saying his fastball, like I said, he could throw 95, and it tops at 99, which is really cool to see.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. Okay. Now, Joe, we're going to talk about, since already Elmer Rodriguez was called up, I'm going to talk about another guy who hasn't been called up, but he should. I'm talking about Mr. 103 on the radar gun, Carlos Lagrange. Call-up timeline becoming obvious for the Yankees through 2 months. It's hard to imagine that it's been 2 months since opening day, but here we are. The Yankees have gone through a lot during that time, and while there were points where they looked like the best team in baseball, other instances, including their current stretch, shows that there's plenty of room for improvement, and that's scary to think about when they still need room for improvement. While the Yankees can easily make trades to upgrade the roster, minor league call-ups are another way to do so. New York hasn't hesitated to throw some of its prospects into big league situations this season with Jason Dominguez, Spencer Jones, and Elmer Rodriguez each getting some sort of opportunity already this season. Okay. Having those up and coming corners given a shot has some fans wondering when it'll be Carlos Lagrange's time. The number 4 prospect in the Yankee system opened the season as a potential MLB promotion candidate at some point, but that opportunity is yet to materialize. And judging by how the campaign has unfolded so far, Lagrange's timeline couldn't be clearer. Carlos Lagrange likely won't be promoted until post All-Star break. Lagrange at 22 showed a lot of promise during a 2025 season split between Double-A Somerset and High-A Hudson Valley, going 11-8 with a 3.53 ERA while striking out 169 batters in 120 innings.
Wow.
The performance was good enough to land him in AAA to begin the year. Unfortunately, his time in Scranton has been far from perfect. Through 10 starts with the Rail Riders, Lagrange is 0-2 with a 4.78 ERA across 43 1/3 innings. He's already surrendered 7 home runs after giving up 8 all last season, though, and that's without mentioning his bad habit of walking batters. 24 walks issued, 5 per 9 innings. Although he's impressively has 57 strikeouts, he needs more than that to grab the Yankees' attention. And like I said, there were times this year where in Rochester at AAA, he was throwing 103 on the radar gun as a starter. So
103
as a starter, yeah, he was hitting that on the radar gun as a starter.
Wow.
Not as a bullpen guy, a starter. Anyway, Lagrange is still a work in progress, and one thing he must figure out is how to establish consistency on the mound. While he was somewhat shaky in April, his performance has only worsened in May, which is likely a key reason why manager Aaron Boone hasn't given him the green light. Yeah, and we have some statistics here. In April, he played 5 games. May, he's played 4. In April, he was 0-2, but he's 0-0 in May. His ERA was 4.05 in April, but 6.05 in May. He pitched 20 innings in April, 19 1/3 in May. He gave up 15 hits in April, 18 hits in May. He gave up 9 earned runs in April, 13 in May. He struck out, but the strikeouts were both even in April and May with 27. He had 14 walks in April, but cut it down to 10 in May, so that's a good thing. But he gave up 3 home runs in April to 4 in May. So,
wow.
Judging by the above numbers, Lagrange has a lot to prove before he gets his long-awaited MLB promotion. Allowing 5 earned runs in as many innings to Lehigh Valley on Friday further proved that. It's going to take several strong starts in a row to create the goodwill needed to foster a call-up, meaning Lagrange will likely have to wait until after July's MLB All-Star break to join the Yankees. Even then, he might not get that opportunity until rosters expand at the start of September. New York's starting rotation isn't as desperate as it once was to experiment with young arms. Carlos Rodon and Garrett Cole are officially back on the field, adding to the rotation that already featured Cam Schlittler, Will Warren, and Ryan Weathers. Once Max Fried returns from the injury list, the unit will be even stronger and have one less reason to bring in Lagrange. It would likely take multiple injuries for Lagrange to get a shot in the starting rotation. His best shot at making the Yankees debut sooner rather than later would be in a bullpen role, but even that still requires him to turn his performance around. Opportunities given out on potential alone don't always work out, as proven by Jones's uneventful but promising big league run. But Lagrange is still fairly young, so it's far too early to label him one way or the other. There's still a chance for him to be a key player for the Yankees one day, but he has a long path to get there. Turning things around one game at a time will be a start, and if he can successfully do that, New York should be calling his name sometime after the All-Star festivities, whether that's in July or and either way, Yankees fans will need to express some patience. There's that word again, Joe.
Yeah, patience comes up a lot.
But what do you think of the fact that I know his stats don't look that great, But what do you think of the fact of his potential, though? The fact that he could throw 103 as a starter and that he just seems like he needs to work on being more polished, but he's already got that big of a fastball as a starter.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Now, first of all, we got a couple of comments here by, it looks like Michael. First of all, thanks for watching. We appreciate that. Now, I don't know if you saw this comment here that he says, I would trade Volpe for a wristband of a one-day unlimited visits to the Bronx Zoo or the aquarium. So not high, just saying is what he says. A season pass.
I don't know. You haven't met Michael yet. He's part of Jeremy B's crew over in.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
If you always see a really out of color but really funny comment, it's him.
Okay. Well, it is a funny comment. But you see, there's a difference between the Mets and the Yankees at this point. You see the Mets, again, making these panic moves, rushing guys up now. The Yankees don't have to do that. They have so much depth, especially in their pitching rotation, that they can be patient with a guy like this. Now, of course, I'm sure he wants to get to the major leagues as soon as possible, but you don't have to rush the guy. Give him time to develop and get that command that he's looking for. He's struggling a little bit, like you're saying, with this move up now. Again, he's going to get it. If somebody's throwing 103, I don't think they have much to go. Again, it's just a matter of finding that command. So the good thing is, again, that the Yankees are in a situation where they don't have to rush that. They can use some time to let a guy like this develop, even though, again, I'm sure the guy wants to get to the Yankees or the major leagues as soon as possible. You don't have to rush him.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of not rushing players, though, how about we talk about 3 Yankees prospects on track who could actually have a promotion this season that still could have one. And it features a name that we just talked about. Anyway, the Yankees haven't been shy about bringing up their top hitting and pitching prospects this season to provide a boost on the mound or at the plate. We haven't hit June yet, and we've already seen Elmer Rodriguez, Spencer Jones, Brandon Beck, and Giovanni Cruz. Remember, I just talked about him. They finally called him up, Joe, after I read about him last week.
Yep.
To make their major league debuts. The only prospect left that the Yankees want to see in the coming weeks, we just talked about Carlos Legrand, especially given this team's issues in the bullpen. That said, he's not the only one who could be in line for a promotion at some point this season. New York has a couple of other players, including their top hitting prospect, George Lombard Jr., who have made all their cases thus far on why their New York debuts might not be too far away. Well, George Lombard Jr.'s isn't going to be too far away because we know Volpe's going to be shipped out, as Michael Edwards said, by the end. So that'll allow Lombard and Caballero to play.
Right.
But below, we'll take a look at what each guy has done thus far in the minor leagues as May wraps up and analyze what they must do to be either in the Bronx at some point this summer or in September. Anyway,
well, you know that one song, right? It's gonna be June, right? Is that how it goes? I can't believe May is over.
No. Sometimes all I think about you, late nights in the middle of June, heat waves. That one.
We were just singing that it's going to be May, right? And now we got how many days left? I mean, we got 4 days left, 5 days left.
Yep. These 3 Yankees prospects have work to do to get called up to New York this season. Carlos Legrand, number 1. It is only right that we start with Legrand, who could be the next to get the call up to the Bronx. Yankees on SI's Devin Platana broke down Legrand's timeline to the majors, predicting that the flame-throwing hurler won't be in the big leagues until after the All-Star break. And if that's the case, it wouldn't be the worst thing for him or the Yankees we just talked about. Mm-hmm. This season, Legrand has struggled at AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre, posting an 0-2 record and a 4.78 ERA across 10 starts. He has racked up 57 strikeouts in 43 1/3 innings, but hasn't done a good job of keeping the ball inside the ballpark. 7 home runs allowed and has given up too many free passes, 24 walks. While it's nice that LeGrande has a wicked fastball that can reach triple digits, which I just said, he must find that consistency on the mound, as Platana pointed out, because that's the difference between him being in AAA and not in the majors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it also doesn't help his case that the Yankees starting rotation is getting healthy, and that likely eliminates one path for LaGrange. However, with his pitching arsenal, he could be a viable weapon for the Yankees bullpen down the stretch, depending on what they do at the trade deadline. That said, whatever the Yankees choose to do or not is out of LeGrande's control. All he can do is try to finish this month on a strong note. Hopefully he shows the Yankees brass that the guy who was on the mound in spring training is still there and has a good June, which can change his trajectory. 2, George Lombard Jr. Lombard Jr. is another top prospect in the Yankees farm system who is struggling a little bit in AAA. But with this talent, there's no reason to think a September call-up isn't possible. The 20-year-old infielder began the 2026 season at Double-A Somerset, where he slashed a scorching .312 with 400 on base percentage and a .571 slugging percentage with 8 doubles, 4 home runs, and 10 RBIs. Lombard was then promoted to AAA after only 20 games. This season at AAA and AA, the uber-talented infielder has gotten a chance to play across the infield, second base, third base, and shortstop. When it was revealed he was getting reps at third base, it set off alarm bells among the fan base that Ryan McMahon could be in trouble. But Lombard hasn't had the same success at the plate, with Scranton Wilkes-Barre hitting .193 with 3 doubles, 0 home runs, 6 RBIs, and a .585 OPS across 21 games heading into Sunday. Given that he's still just 20 years old and the Yankees have veteran options such as Anthony Volpe, although he won't be one for much long, and Jose Caballero, there isn't a rush to get Lombard Jr. up this summer. Well, correction, until then. Now, if Lombard can find his groove and look like the slugger we saw at Somerset over the next 2 months, maybe he does become a September call-up. Could you imagine the Yankees adding Lombard in September as they battle with the Rays for the AL East crown? Ooh. Mm. It could give them an infusion of energy that they'll need down the home stretch. Number 3, Eric Reiselman. This season, we've seen relievers such as Cruz, Kevin Castro, Yeri De Los Santos, and Angel Chavelli get called up from the minors, but we haven't seen Reiselman yet, who is the Yankees' 28th ranked prospect in their top 30 for MLB pipeline. The 24-year-old relief pitcher began this season at Double-A Somerset after spending the 2025 campaign at Scranton Wilkes-Barre. During that season with the Rail Riders, Reiselman had a 1-2 record, a save, and a 4.29 ERA across 34 appearances. The 6'2", 188-pound reliever made 13 appearances at Somerset, where he had a 3.12 ERA. He also racked up 32 strikeouts while giving up 10 hits, 4 walks, and 2 runs, and held opponents to a 161 batting average.
Wow.
Reiselman was recently called up to Scranton, where he made his first relief appearance on Friday against Lehigh Valley. In 2 innings of work, the right-hand relief pitcher surrendered a walk, a hit, and recorded 2 strikeouts. If he could keep his mechanics in sync, right, because it's May, in sync, throw strikes, and start to compile clean innings down to AAA, the Yankees may have another pitcher at their disposal. Reiselman currently isn't on the 40-man roster, so the New York Yankees would have to part ways with another pitcher to make room for a call-up. And one of his problems is he's got good command, but his velocity was really low. When I watched him pitch against the Red Wings, he was only throwing like 89 to 91.
Oh, wow.
So I think they may have sent him down to AAA or to AA to try to get his velocity up.
Okay.
So, but Joe, what do you think of all these guys I mentioned getting a call? We already talked about Carlos LaGrange, right? And,
I find it very incredible that the Yankees have so much depth at the major league level, and yet bubbling under here, they have so much depth at the minor league level. And again, that's very un-Yankee-like. I mean, it is Yankee-like for 2026. I mean, growing up, as long as I've been watching baseball, that hasn't been the case for the most part. But it's just incredible. Again, not only amazing depth at the major league level with the Yankees now, but so many guys that can come in, and so many guys that it seems like are going to be waiting for a little bit. Some of them you mentioned are going to get their potential September call-ups that might be ready. But like I said before, if they're not ready, don't push them up. You don't have to, based on the situation that they're in. And you're talking about the guy there that you with your NSYNC reference. If he does great, then he moves up. If he doesn't, then bye. So we'll have to go for it with that. But again, great depth all through the entire organization. So they're in great shape for a long time.
But Joe, guess what? I think it's tearing up my heart that they have so much depth at the major league levels that when the minor league guys are apart, I feel it too,
It's right that they may not get their opportunity as soon as they would like.
Yeah. It is now that time in our show for a question of the week segment. So, Joe, would you like to give it a try?
Yeah, let's give it a try. I think I got last week's right. So let's see if we can get 2 in a row here.
Okay, Joe, here is your question. Can you guess this MLB player? He was a 10-time Golden Glove winner, and he was the MLB home run hitter in the 2005 season. Is it Andrew Jones, Mark Teixeira, Carlos Beltran, or A-Rod?
Wow. Man, it could be any of those guys. I think Andrew Jones was probably the best fielder out of the bunch. And you said they led the league in home runs in 2005?
Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out the best combination of fielding, because all those Gold Gloves. I'm going to go with one. Again, it could be any of them, and I'm just guessing right now, being honest. How about Mark Teixeira?
No, it was Andrew Jones. He had 51 home runs. But
that would.
What were you going to say, though?
Oh, no, I was going to say I thought about that because, again, him being the best fielder, but I didn't realize he had that many home runs.
However, though, the guy on this list, Alex Rodriguez, who had 48, won the MVP that year.
Okay. Was he with the Yankees at that time?
Yeah, his second full season with the Yankees. Yep.
Okay.
All
right. We'll try again next time.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Well, that concludes. Let's see. I don't see it. There it is. Wait. Just a second. Well, it looks like we come to. Thank you, Michael. Well, it looks like we come to the end of our show. So, Joe, where can we find you in this social media world on Tuesday, May 26, 2026, the last Tuesday of May?
That is crazy. Again, Michael, thanks so much for the comments. We appreciate you watching. You can find me, Joe Dell Sports, Twitter, X, and then doing shows like this. And as we get into June, my schedule decreases, so perhaps I can make appearances on some of these other shows on this network as well. So, but for now, catch us here Tuesday evenings, and then Joe Dell Sports, Twitter, X, putting my 2 cents in about not only baseball, but again, I am absolutely stoked that my favorite basketball team is going to the finals. We talked about it backstage, right? Not only going to the finals, but I think a legitimate chance to win it. So stay tuned on that. But that's where you can find me. Jamie, how about you?
You can find me, yours truly, on Bill's Chat 1 at Bill's Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist at DJ Dog Tags on X, Buffalo down in the fortball.com, where I write about all sports. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and ring the bell for all notifications. For more content on Driving to the Top production, you can visit us on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, X, or wherever you get your podcast. For Joe Dalio, this is Jamie Malloy, and we'll see you next week right here in the Subway Conversation Chat, only on Driving to the Top Productions. Good night, everybody.
Have a great week.